When my grandfather died, my family started fighting over his business. What none of them know is that he secretly left something behind for me. Growing up, everyone talked about my grandfather like he was the reason our family had anything at all. Back in the late 70s, he started a small plumbing company with one truck and a set of tools. Over time, it slowly turned into a steady local business. By the time I was a kid, he had a few trucks, a small office behind his house, and people around town who swore he could fix problems nobody else could. He was not flashy or rich, but he was careful. He saved everything: old receipts, job logs, little notebooks filled with handwritten notes. His biggest rule was simple: money should stay in the family. When I was about 16, he started letting me ride along with him on weekend calls. Most of the time, I just carried tools or helped move equipment, but the drives were long and he liked to talk. He told stories about jobs that went wrong, customers who tried to skip out on paying, and how hard it was when the business first started. One afternoon, while we were driving between jobs, he said something strange. He told me he did not trust banks very much and preferred to keep things simple. Then, he mentioned that he had put some money aside just in case things ever got messy after he was gone. At the time, I assumed he meant normal savings for my grandma. It sounded like one of those random things older people say. A few years later, he passed away suddenly from a heart attack. Everything in the family changed overnight. My dad and my uncle immediately started fighting about the business. Lawyers got involved, meetings happened behind closed doors, and every conversation felt tense. My grandma mostly stayed quiet while everyone else argued. For a while, the whole situation felt like a storm that nobody could stop. About a year after he passed, I was helping my grandma clean out the garage behind his old office. The place still smelled like motor oil, copper pipes, and dust from old toolboxes. We were sorting through shelves and cabinets that had not been touched in years when I noticed something odd under one of the metal tool cabinets. Taped to the underside of the bottom shelf was a small, locked cash box. My grandma said she had never seen it before. When we pulled it down and opened it, there was an envelope with my name written on it in my grandfather's handwriting. Taped to the back of the envelope was a small key. The letter itself was simple, just a few paragraphs. He wrote that when money gets involved, families sometimes start fighting, and he wanted to make sure I had something that belonged only to me. Something nobody else could argue about or try to take. The key was for a safe deposit box at a small credit union across town. When we went to open it, I expected maybe a few documents or something sentimental. Instead, there were old savings bonds, several stacks of cash wrapped in rubber bands, and a worn notebook filled with dates going back almost 20 years. Every so often, he had set aside money from random jobs and tucked it away there. It was not millions or anything unbelievable, but it was far more than I ever imagined he had been saving. The strangest part is that nobody else in my family even knows that box exists. My grandma told me she thought my grandfather trusted me because I was the only one who actually listened when he told stories during those long drives. Sometimes I still think about those weekends riding in his old truck, listening to him talk while we drove between jobs. At the time, it all felt like random stories from an old man who liked to talk. Now I realize he had been planning something quietly for years, and I did not understand it until long after he was gone.